Hey, hello everyone again. So let's do this again. I'm just going to make sure I chose the right microphone. That's what I did wrong the last time. Okay, we should be good. So we're going to talk about the major aspects, planetary changes, and retrograde direct periods as well that's happening this month in December. So it's already the 7th. We just had our eclipse. Still recovering here. I don't know how you guys are feeling. I'm definitely still trying to integrate whatever happened. There's really no words to describe what happened. I was talking to some of you guys and it got weird. There were aliens and visions and all these downloads coming in, all of these lessons being integrated, not really integrated, but being realized really, really fast, like a strobe light, like it was there and then it wasn't there and it was there and it wasn't there. It was just like a light blinking on and off is what it felt like to me. And that's kind of like what eclipses do in general too. They allow you to have these realizations that are sped up and are like huge realizations. And it's really important for our growth. But I'm definitely getting the message to continue to integrate those things. Chiron specifically, I feel that if you've been really working on some deep soul wounds, like give yourself time and space to like actually integrate that and to allow that to come into your life in a natural way instead of trying to force it, because like you can't force it, right? So I'm going to pull up the charts. We will start on the 5th, December 5th. Okay. See if I can make this just a little bigger. I'm not terrible with technology, but I don't know, things happen. I think I'm just not, it's weird how like detail oriented I can be when I'm like hyper fixated on something, but otherwise I tend to gloss over little things and then have to kind of problem solve and figure it out later. And that's not good for technology. You have to be like really aware of like all the different like points that you need to be focused on and aware of for things to go smoothly. Does that make sense? And Saturn's in my 3rd house. So that's like a whole thing. Saturn is like right next to my Saturn right now. So things are getting really intense. Okay. So this is on the 5th. Let's move forward to actually yesterday. Oh, you know what? This is not going to work unless I animate it. So yesterday we actually had Mars and Scorpio forming this sextile to Pluto and Capricorn. So that's really significant. Obviously, that's Mars, the warrior, forming this. Sextiles, they can work together, but you're going to have to put in some effort to make them work together. Now, this is Pluto we're talking about here too, and Mars and Scorpio, which Mars rules Scorpio. So this is a very, very powerful placement. I've been seeing a lot online about how Mars and Scorpio is like an overrated placement. I don't think that's true because Mars and Scorpio, they're not super outright about what they're fighting for or what they're doing. They kind of do all of their work in the underworld, in the darkness, and they only come out, if they're in that the eagle version of Scorpio, they only come down to like strike their prey and then they kind of like rise above it again. Or they're like the scorpion that's only coming out at night. So existing in the darkness, existing in the shadows, doing that kind of like dirty work there. So I don't think it's an overrated placement. I mean, Mars rules Scorpio in traditional astrology. So Mars and Scorpio. Oh, and also the way that I have this chart set up, the thicker the line, the closer the orb of the aspect. So the closer it is to being exact. So I'm looking at Mars here. Where's Mars? Mars in Scorpio. And then we have Pluto over here in Capricorn. So that became exact on the 6th. Of course, that depends on where you are too. So these two are trying to work together. Pluto and Capricorn is acting like what Rick Levine would always say is like the cleanup crew right now, because we had all those planets in Capricorn. I think it was in 2020. We had all of those planets in Capricorn, the outer planets, and they were kind of doing this dance all year, which was making things very interesting, to say the least, about 2020. There's a lot we can say about the astrology even of 2020 that was just very fascinating. but Pluto is still in Capricorn. So it's really like deconstructing and setting on fire the things that we were trying to destroy in 2020, which is Capricorn things. So it's structures that don't work anymore, traditions that don't work anymore, society things that don't work anymore. And that's kind of where Aquarius comes in, is when there are structures in society that are only benefiting a few people at the top at the expense of everyone else, Aquarius is coming in to break that down. But Pluto and Capricorn is like really, really digging up some dirt and bringing those things to light continually. So Mars and Scorpio here is really just activating that process. We're still seeing the shadows, especially in the US here, because the United States is about to have their Pluto return in February. So we've been seeing the shadows for a while now. Like that's pretty much all we can see sometimes is the shadow. And that's the thing about Pluto and the Pluto and Scorpio generation and Scorpio too. They can't help but try to find the wound and like try to find the things in the darkness that need to be healed. So sometimes it's like it becomes hyper fixated on the things that are wrong. And it's really easy to forget the things that are actually good, because we're just like so focused on the shadows. We're so focused on what is wrong with the world. So that's kind of like a danger as well. So when we get to Wednesday on the 8th, Mars in Scorpio is going to square Jupiter in Aquarius. 26 degrees of Scorpio, 26 degrees of Jupiter. So square aspects are conflict, and Scorpio and Aquarius naturally square because they're both fixed signs. So I kind of see this as like a continuation of reevaluating our ideals individually and collectively. And this is all shadowy stuff. Mars is still in Scorpio here, even though we're in Sagittarius season, which tends to be positive and optimistic and grandiose and visionary, we still have Mars in Scorpio. So Mars in Scorpio is still bringing our attention to the things that we have to work on in our own shadow, in our collective shadow, in our subconscious, trauma work, psychological work, even like spiritual work. I always think of like Pisces as like the healing kind of aspect of spiritual work. And I see Scorpio as like the exorcism, you know, that's the kind of Scorpio spiritual stuff, that Mars spirituality kind of stuff, like purging, entity removal. That's the kind of stuff I see Mars and Scorpio doing. All right, let's move forward to the 11th. And I'm doing Central Time here, so Chicagoland. And this will be on Saturday. Venus in Capricorn is actually going to conjunct Pluto this weekend. See, 25 degrees Capricorn, 25 degrees Capricorn. So I've been kind of waiting for this moment, honestly, just to see what's going to happen. There's a lot of upheaval. There's a lot of things being uprooted, again, from Mars and Scorpio, but also Pluto doing all these interesting things too. So having Venus in Capricorn is already a bit of a grounded, more serious-minded placement for Venus, but it can also be very like sensual, I would say, because Capricorn really likes nice things, right? Like status things. So money, power, it can be sex. It definitely can be, but it's also, what's the word I'm looking for? Material things. I'm thinking of the Devil card right now in the Rider-Waite traditional deck. And that's kind of Capricorn energy. That's the Capricorn card, is the Devil. So it's all of those very alluring, sensual, attractive, status promoting kind of earthy material things. So having Venus here, it's like having a very strong love of those things: money, power, prestige, career, public status, public image. We're like very attracted to that stuff right now. But once it lines up with Pluto, I think we're going to see the problem with all of that, and like where those things maybe are a bit more hollow than we would like them to be. Maybe thinking that those things were going to bring us happiness or emotional fulfillment. And they definitely can to an extent. You know, I have most of my planets in the 10th house, so I feel like that awareness of like public status and public image is like a constant obsession in my mind. And I feel like that's kind of where everybody's at right now. Like, how do I appear to everybody else? And like, where am I on this like ladder of success that I'm trying to climb to get to the next level? But once we get Venus and Pluto together, this is like relationship deconstruction. I really do think, especially because we're coming up to Venus in retrograde, relationships right now, if you choose to stick with them, not just romantic, friendship, even like family members, if you choose to continue those relationships, like they're going to be solidified by like that Saturn Capricorn energy. But if you choose to let them go, especially when Venus goes into retrograde, like it's going to be over, like it's going to be done. So just be sure about using that slice in a very affirmative way, because I don't know if it can be undone. It's going to be very like a feeling of finality. That's what the Venus in retrograde is going to be like. And I think on Saturday, it's giving us just like a little bit of a taste of what that's going to feel like when we start to do that. The next day, the Sun in Sagittarius will square Neptune. Sun in Sagittarius here at 20 degrees and Neptune at 20 degrees of Pisces. I don't see this as a bad aspect at all, because in traditional astrology, Jupiter also ruled Pisces. So these two together, it can be very beautiful, I think. It can be very artistic and creative and spiritual and idealistic and visionary and expansive and nebulous, for sure. So while Jupiter can expand until the boundary of Saturn, and then it kind of has to go back down and deflate, Neptune is not bound by Saturn at all. Neptune will dissolve Saturn, reality itself. So Neptune can expand forever and just keep going and going and going. There's really no end to Neptune, spirituality, emotions, and consciousness. So I see this as a good thing. Of course, the only trap would be illusions, delusions, being so focused on our own ideal that we fail to see anybody else's point of view. That's like such a Sagittarius problem for sure. But I do think that maybe the softness of Neptune and Pisces, it might make it confusing. But at the same time, I think it might soften that rather, I will say maybe the opportunity. It's not really an opportunity. There is a tendency of Sagittarius to get very arrogant. And I have my rising there. So, all right, there's a little self-reflection here. So there is the potential for Sagittarius to be very, very arrogant. And very like preachy. So I do think that Neptune's like spiritual softness, Neptune's Christ consciousness can definitely tame that like burning star Sagittarius energy. On the 13th, the next day, Mars will enter into Sagittarius and Mercury will enter into Capricorn. So Mars here is at 0 degrees of Sagittarius and Mercury is at 0 degrees of Capricorn. Mars in Sagittarius is a great placement. Honestly, I almost feel that like Mars and Scorpio can feel like a little too much sometimes. Even though Mars loves Scorpio, it rules Scorpio. I think Mars in Sagittarius is also taking the heavy weight off of the situation a bit, because Scorpio is very touchy. Scorpio is very sensitive, but does not care about other people's sensitivity at all. They just don't, but they're very touchy and sensitive themselves. So I think once we get into Mars in Sagittarius, it will definitely put us more driven towards learning and expanding the mind, body, and soul, and learning about ourselves by just learning about things that are beyond our own reality. So learning about other cultures, learning about other religions, how do other people live, expanding, traveling, reaching outside of our community. That's Sagittarius stuff. So we'll be very like drawn towards those things. So we have a nice balance with that and like Venus and Capricorn, because Capricorn really is more ruling like not like our inner home, but like usually the area we grew up in. So for me, my Capricorn area would be like Chicagoland. So it's like society. It's more than like the smaller community, which is Gemini. And while Sagittarius is like the outside world, Capricorn is more like the society that we live in, that we grew up in. I'm watching these two really cute doves right now eating birdseed out my window. Okay, so Mercury in Capricorn is a very, again, meticulous, calculated, serious-minded placement for Mercury, which is the way that we think. So Mercury in Capricorn we're going to be very calculated in our communication, which is good. That's always a good thing, in my opinion. Maybe a little bit somber. We might be dealing with some depression, I would say, with Mercury and Capricorn, because Capricorn is ruled by Saturn, which is a very strict, restrictive, difficult energy. So when Mercury's in Capricorn, our communication will definitely be used with the awareness of how that's coming off to others, specifically like the public. But we might also get into that very like Saturnian serious state of mind, which isn't really fun because Saturn is basically creating difficulties for us to overcome. So once we put that in the mind, we're definitely going to see maybe any mental health issues that you have coming to the surface, I would say, or just becoming aware of like the problem. There is like a bit of like somberness, I feel, for some reason in December. Of course, in the Northern Hemisphere, it's getting pretty dark here. We're getting close to the winter solstice, so it makes sense. But I do think Mercury and Capricorn, there is that risk of maybe only seeing the problems, maybe only focusing on that mountain that you have to climb. And it's all Mercury, so it's all either in the way that we communicate or the way that we listen to others, or whether we feel heard or not. That's where we're going to see the challenges right now. And hopefully, if we all work together, we can kind of help each other overcome that and overcome any limitations, Saturn, that we feel that we have as far as analyzing information goes, analyzing data, communicating, being heard, listening, releasing stuff in the throat chakra for sure. But it's going to take some like really hard work to make that happen. So on the 18th, we have the full moon in Gemini. Okay. Let me see here. So the full moon will be occurring at 27 degrees and 29 minutes. So let's move forward. Sorry, I should have set this to 0 degrees Aries, so we're not looking at all this. Okay. 27 degrees and 29 minutes. Let's go back minutes. I use solar fire, by the way. I have a lot of people asking me what I would recommend as far as like an astrology software goes. Here's the thing about solar fire. I love it now that I know how to use it, but learning how to use it was like physically, mentally, emotionally painful for me. It was not easy. Like, oh well, I literally had no idea what to do. I didn't know how to use it. Luckily, with my apprenticeship with Rick Levine, he had like a whole like class series that taught us how to use it. And like if I didn't have that, I mean, I kind of like lost it a little bit because I couldn't figure out how to do anything. The thing about solar fire is that it can do literally anything that you ever wanted to do with astrology. Like it's in here, all the different types of astrology. There is so much in this software that I don't even know what it's for, but it's there when I learn how to use it. There is a guidebook online, but it's like 500 pages long, and whatever you're looking for, it's like probably not even in there. So it's very difficult to figure out how to use it. But if you can like take a class or someone who already has it, they can teach you how to use it. That would be super helpful. And I definitely recommend it. It's pretty expensive. But also like customer service, in my opinion, is not good. I called one time and this lady like literally screamed at me, like she literally yelled at me, and I was like so offended. But okay, anyways, it's a great software. It's an investment, but I definitely recommend if you're going to get it, just have someone teach you, maybe me, teach you how to use it. All right, so the full moon in Gemini. As you can see, the main thing that stands out here is this kite aspect pattern. So a kite is a grand trine, which is a grand air trine here. We have Hygeia. I'm including Hygeia in this because I do feel that Hygeia wants to make a comeback right now because we don't really use her that much, but she was like such an important goddess. And we kind of just, along with many other goddesses, kind of just like grouped them together. Like here's the fertility cult goddesses. And then here's the, I don't know, like the virgin medicine goddesses, and we just like forgot everything else. I don't know. So anyway, there's a kite aspect pattern if you want to include Hygeia in this chart. Hygeia connecting the moon and connecting Jupiter for a grand air trine. Now, normally with grand air trines, because grand trines are perfect circuits of energy that can't be broken, they can be beneficial, but if you're trying to make changes, generally it's very, very difficult because it's a perfect circuit of energy, right? All 3 points are just working together and they don't stop. I always compare this to that song on Dark Side of the Moon by Pink Floyd, On the Run. You know, that like anxiety kind of provoking song where like the guy is like running and panting, and there's that really interesting, like, I don't know how to explain it, like synth sounds, and there's like airplanes. It's basically supposed to represent like just being on the run, like our whole lives, just like going, 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 going. That's a grand air trine. That's really the best example I can think of, because it's easy to get stuck like in a thought loop, especially if you have this in your birth chart. Now, the beauty of the actual kite aspect, which includes this little sextile triangle down here, is that this offers a way out of that. It's like, and the way out is going to be through the sun in this case. So it's going to push out. We're going to be able to break through whatever mental loops that we have going on. With the moon in Gemini, I have a lot of friends, like my closest friends have moon in Gemini. They get so trapped in their thoughts because they're like, well, on this hand, on this hand, and they'll do that forever. And like, you can't get them to like pick one twin, you know, they just keep moving and moving and moving. And I think it causes a lot of anxiety for them too. So that's how we might be feeling on this moon. But there's something happening here with Hygeia in Libra too. Hygeia is a goddess of medicine. So not like necessarily spiritual medicine, not healing in the sense of like a shaman or something. It's more of like actual medicine, herbs and tinctures and holistic healing is how I would see Hygeia. So there's something with that. I think we're going to be seeing the link of how our own holistic terrain of the body is actually linking up with our thoughts and specifically with our anxiety. That's how I feel about this. We're really going to be seeing how our mental health and our actual physical health are like, you know, deeply intertwined. They're not separate. It can seem that way, especially depending on where your Mercury is or what your placements are. It can seem like they're two different things, but they're not. Like they go together. I know you guys with Virgo placements know that, because like every time you guys eat one thing, you like literally can feel what it's doing to your body, to the point where it drives you a little bit mad sometimes, because you can feel how every little thing outside, inside affects your body. That's very Virgo. But someone who's not aware of that might become more aware of that, I would say, on this full moon. So if this thing is being broken through, being pushed out, that tension is being pushed out, if we choose, through the sun in Sagittarius, I think this is a good thing, because instead of getting trapped in the anxiety and analyzing all the little details, we'll be able to see the bigger picture, which is Sagittarius. We'll be able to see the higher meaning of it all and what its purpose is in the grand scheme of things. We'll be able to maybe transmute or change some of those thoughts into more optimistic thinking, which will be important with Mercury and Capricorn. Like, we need to not love and light, not just look at the bright side, be positive. No, like, still notice those things about your own mental health that maybe need work. But with this, specifically with this full moon, I do think that with that Sagittarius energy breaking up those thoughts, I think, okay, we realize what the problem is and how we need to heal. Now let's like take that Sagittarius drive and do something with it, get outside of ourselves, you know, reach out to a guru, which is what I think of Sagittarius as too. Reach out to, as an example, I would think like I work with like an Ayurvedic practitioner. That's probably who I'm going to reach out to around this time. Somebody that you can follow and listen to and learn from. And even though Capricorn is like the rules, the traditions, the structures, Sagittarius is also kind of like that, because Sagittarius rules law. And Sagittarius is really good with like following certain spiritualities and religions. I'm thinking of like yoga, which is like a very specific Hindu practice. So yeah, that's kind of where we will do our learning and be able to release some of that like anxiety, tension stuff going on. And if not everybody includes like the nodes in this, but if you look at the North Node and the South Node, oh no, it's actually not making a T-square. JK, okay. The next day, Venus is going into retrograde. So Venus, where's Venus? Right here. As you can see, Venus is stationary. And as you can see here, Chiron is also stationary. Chiron is going to go direct and Venus is going to go into retrograde the next day. All right. They're still stationary. So let's move forward. Actually, it depends on where you are. You're still going to be stationary, stationary, stationary. Okay, so Venus is in retrograde now. So actually on the 20th, Chiron is still stationary. Now, here's the thing about when planets are stationary, and this is important for that full moon too. They are still in the sky, like they are literally not moving at all. So they're completely still and all the other planets are moving around it or with, you know, in relation to it while those are still. So that becomes a focal point, which really gives this full moon like a totally different flavor of Chiron healing the soul wounds, using the wisdom that we have gained from healing ourselves to actually take that and bring it to the outside world, because this is Chiron the centaur. It's similar to Sagittarius, which is also the centaur. So taking that wisdom to the outer world, right? To society, to who knows? I also see the internet kind of as part of this too, because you can reach so many more people in so many different places outside of where you're from with the internet. And also with Venus going into retrograde, it's exactly like we would think it would be like. With any retrograde period, it's taking the energy of that planet, asteroid, whatever, and bringing it internal. So we're going to be really looking deeply at how the way that we give and receive love maybe is affecting our Capricorn, so affecting our reality. We're really going to be looking at our relationships and deciding, like, is this relationship helping us level up? No? Okay, get rid of it or keep it. It's going to be hard because I think Capricorn is very loyal and dedicated to the people that they care about. And that's something that's more given to Taurus, rightfully so, and Scorpio too. But Capricorn is the same way. Capricorn is kind of like the culmination and the combination of Taurus and Virgo, along with just the Capricorn traits too. So relationships that aren't working for us, they're going to be thrown out. And if you do that, like, it's going to be final. So, like, you know, just be sure that's really what you want to do. I don't doubt that you will make the right decision. Venus is in Capricorn, so this is a very calculated, methodical approach. So if you feel that you should do it, then please do it. And I will talk about that more when the week actually comes, when Venus will go into retrograde, and with the full moon too. The next day is the winter solstice, which is Yule, which is Capricorn. Oh, this is ours. Capricorn season. Who is a Capricorn in your life? My sister is a Capricorn. Sun, Mercury, Uranus, Neptune, and Saturn. I was just talking to somebody about this. She's got like big dad energy for sure. You know, Saturn is kind of like the traditional, which rules Capricorn and Aquarius. Saturn is like the dad in a way. Even though the sun is the father, I feel that Saturn is like, let's say that the sun is the dad and Saturn is like the father, like the hierarchical, like father who rules over and sets the boundaries and the rules, and like, this is what you have to do, this is what you have to follow. That's Saturn, which rules Capricorn. So Capricorn is the goat, the mountain goat. Capricorn is, they're very, very strong. They're very sturdy. They're very structured. They like things to be calculated to make sense. They can seem very goofy and random, I would say, But even if it seems like in their life they're kind of like goofing off or like staying completely still, they're really not. They're actually inside their own minds, probably calculating their next move. So Capricorn, they're a cardinal sign. They want to be the boss. They're ruled by Saturn, right? They want to be the authority. Even when it doesn't make sense, they're just naturally going to take on that authoritative role. Like, I'm the boss now. Like, I don't even care what position I have in this company. I'm going to be a little bit pushy if I'm a Capricorn, and I'm going to assume the authority role. And people just like get on board with that because they feel that Saturn energy. They're like, this person knows what they're talking about. They may or may not. It really depends. What else about Capricorn? Capricorn is surprisingly sensitive. The opposite sign being Cancer. So Cancer is the sign of the home. It's a water sign ruled by the moon, very emotional, very sensitive, very nurturing. The mother, right? Saturn and Capricorn are kind of like the father. They're very structured, orderly. They like things to be done a certain way. They're very pushy because they want you to get to the next level in your life. While Cancer is like always in flux, they're always changing, like the waves of the ocean and the tides, they're always changing their emotions. Capricorn is like very solid, like this is what it is. Capricorn rules outside society, like I was saying, the public life, career, getting out into society and having a place in that, while Capricorn or Cancer rules the home. But the thing is like those two, they're not opposites, they complement each other. So Capricorn is surprisingly sensitive, but I don't feel that you will see that side of them unless you know them really, really well. They actually are very, very sensitive. And I think that's kind of where like that Capricorn Cancer axis kind of like flows into each other, because with our human minds and with how astrology is, it's easy to think of those two things as separate, but they just like flow together, baby. They are not that different. They might seem different, like the way that they do things might seem opposite, but I do feel that like with the axes, like the axes, I don't know what the word is, they definitely have a lot of similarities. Like at their core, they're the same, but the way they go about doing it, it seems opposite, but because we live in this world of duality, they're not really that different. Does that make sense? Okay. On Thursday, this is very, very important. So on the 23rd, Saturn is going to square Uranus again. So Saturn is at 11 degrees of Aquarius here, and Uranus is at 11 degrees of Taurus. So this is a theme that we've been seeing now for a long, long time. I wish I had looked up the dates of when these Saturn Uranus squares have happened already, but it's been going on since 2020. This is the clashing of the old way and the new, where we've always been, the way that we've always done things, versus Uranus, the future. So Saturn is holding ground. Uranus is breaking through that ground. So this is like the rebellion, Uranus. This is the revolution. This is breaking down those structures that don't make sense and are only serving a few people. And just my personal opinion, I think people in power knew that this was going to happen. They knew that this was coming. This is a big deal, having these two square each other. The thing is, Saturn and Uranus, they're so different, but they both need each other. Like they need each other. Saturn is so stubborn. Saturn literally is here to be the ruler of our reality of like, this is the way that it is. That's it. And Uranus is here to like refresh it, to get rid of things that are going to crumble anyway, and to breathe new life into it so that we can have a future that is more inclusive, that is more liberal, that is more serving everybody. Capricorn, especially when Saturn was in Capricorn, that is top-down economics, that is a very, very strong social hierarchy where there's only certain people in power and the peasants. It's a little extreme, but that's the kind of energy that we're working with here. Even though Saturn is in Aquarius, which Saturn also rules Aquarius, which Aquarius in modern astrology is ruled by Uranus. So they seem very different. And I think with our human minds, we always want to be like, it's us against them, me against you, you know, that kind of thing. But they need each other. Like, for example, if you are learning how to play guitar, I actually play guitar. I don't play very much anymore, but I do play guitar. So if you're learning to play guitar, normally, you're going to have to start learning with Saturn. So you're going to have to learn how to look at sheet music. You have to look at how to read notes. You have to look at the different types of scales. You have to figure out all of those basics. You have to figure out the structural stuff first. Like you need, when you're learning anything, you need that foundation first. Like that is so, so important. And a lot of people skip that part, or they don't do it. They don't learn from a teacher, which is very like Saturn energy. And it really does become obvious later, I think. If you don't know those structural things, it makes things harder. And it's just very important to have that basic structure first, Saturn. Now, once you have that structure, now you can go Uranus with it. Now you can break beyond those rules, or you can use some of those rules and laws, traditions as your foundation, and you can kind of like break beyond it and do your own thing. So this is like with the guitar example, this is kind of where, okay, the guitarist has learned the notes, the guitarist has learned how to read sheet music, how to play different scales, how different genres of music work. Now they can start playing guitar solos. Now they can start writing their own music and being very Uranus, brilliant idea creative. And that's like with anything, that's like with painting or drawing. Now you have people like Jimi Hendrix who like never did the Saturn thing and they just started playing and were like a literal Uranian genius. We should look at his chart. I wonder what is in his chart. I'm kind of curious now. I think he might be a Gemini. And I'm only saying that because I realized that most artists that I really, really like are Geminis, which my descendant is in Gemini. So I thought that was interesting. So you have people, or like Keith Moon from The Who, the drummer, he definitely went straight to Uranus and just a brilliant player. But those people are like, they're rare. For most people, we have to do that very, very hard, difficult initial work, that Saturnian work, before we can take that structure, that foundation that changes here and there, but with music too, it kind of tends to remain the same with the scales and whatnot. And then we can take that and move beyond it. So they need each other. We can't have one or the other. It doesn't mean Saturn bad, Uranus good. And I think with our human nature, like it's so easy to get caught up in that. And I've noticed that too with myself. With my Saturn return, my Saturn's in Aquarius, I'm only just now realizing like how those two things need each other. It was hard for me to understand how Saturn could rule Aquarius at first, because Saturn also rules Capricorn, but that's like the perfect example. Like Saturn in Capricorn is like, this is the past, Capricorn. This is the way we've always done things. We're staying the same. When Saturn is in Aquarius, it's the opposite. It's like, how do we break those things down that aren't working so that we can have a better future for future generations? How can we be more inclusive of everybody? How can we make things equal? And both of those can be really great in balance. In excess, they're terrible. Too much Saturn in Capricorn is, things need to change, but the people who are in power, the authority figures, they won't change it. But guess what? It's going to crumble anyway. There is nothing you can do to stop it. If you keep a building exactly the way it's always been for hundreds and hundreds of years, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I'm thinking of like the Tower of Babel right now. If you keep a building the same exactly as it is for hundreds and hundreds of years, you don't make any changes, Uranus, you don't change the structure, you don't use like innovative inventions, you don't do anything to it, it's going to crumble anyway. That's the thing. You need Uranus there to make those changes. Change is necessary. So what I'm getting at overall is that this Saturn square Uranus, Rick always told me not to say that astrology causes anything, but I'm just going to say it. Sorry. I think that Saturn in square Uranus has caused a lot of things: riots, social unrest, excitement, anxiety, everyone just feeling like the ball is going to drop. It's the feeling of like that Uranian nervousness, because it rules the nervous system, that lightning is going to strike and you don't know when. And there's nothing you could do with astrology to know when exactly it's going to strike or what's going to happen. I think it also has caused all of these like very disruptive, chaotic changes in society. because you have people in control trying to, exert more control, and then you have the people rebelling, and everyone's fighting, and it's chaos. Oh my God, this is like such a Saturn square Uranus time for sure. We're going to look back at this time in our lives and just be like, wow, that was something. That was some Saturn square Uranus stuff right there. And also, it's worth noting that Taurus, which Uranus is in Taurus right now, Taurus is the status quo too. Taurus, they're a fixed earth sign. So in general, Taurus by itself doesn't really want to change. In fact, Taurus people hate change, especially if you tell them to do it. They're not going to do it. There's nothing you could say, nothing you could do, no evidence that you can present that will make a Taurus do something that they don't want to do. You cannot do it. So having Uranus here has been like very uncomfortable, because those things that we don't want to change about ourselves and our foundation in our life, like they're going to change, they're being changed. Uranus is like, nope, this is going to be a tower moment. We're going to strike lightning. We're going to strike it down. Again, I'm thinking of the Tower of Babel. There has to be some kind of like connection here, and the Tower Tarot card. In the Bible, the Tower of Babel basically was a society, and there is evidence that it actually was a real tower. It actually did exist. But basically the story goes that Babel, I believe, is Babylon. I can't remember now. So in Babylon, they were building this tower, trying to get to heaven themselves, without God in the Bible. So this is really interesting, because enlightenment, or reaching God, is a very Uranus thing, because it's revelation, it's having a breakthrough, it's having your mind like literally open. So that like Uranian breakthrough kind of sounds like enlightenment, which kind of sounds like reaching God. But when the people were building this tower to get to heaven, God was like, no, I'm going to just destroy the whole thing, basically. And that's what he did. Maybe God is like Saturn in a way that I can kind of see that connection with them, because I feel like biblical God is like such a punisher. And they were trying to reach enlightenment using just Saturn ways. And God was like, no, or I don't know. It's kind of like Saturn with Aquarius and Capricorn together. Okay. So what else do we have here? So because Venus is in retrograde on the 25th, on Christmas, Venus in retrograde is going to conjunct Pluto again. So we have Venus going over Pluto here. It's going to happen 3 times overall. So more relationship deconstruction, more relationship transformation. And then on the following day, Hygeia is actually going to move into Scorpio. So as you can see, Hygeia is at 29 degrees here of Libra, which is definitely like healing work and justice. I see this as like justice within the actual medical system in a way. It's going to move into Scorpio. So we're still working in the underworld here. Hygeia and Scorpio, it's like such strong like serpent energy. It could be even like Ophiuchus kind of energy too, just because of the nature of Hygeia and medicine itself. So Hygeia is moving into Scorpio. This is definitely an opportunity to heal trauma, things in our subconscious, things in our darkness that we need to heal. We will definitely have the opportunity to do that when Hygeia moves into Scorpio. So look at where Scorpio is in your chart, and I think that's where some seriously powerful healing energy will be funneling into. Now on the 28th, Jupiter is going to move out of Aquarius and into Pisces. Let's see what time. All right, so on the 28th, right, Jupiter will move into Pisces. This is very, very important. And honestly, we should like praise the gods, because this is exactly what we need right now. There's a lot going on, right? We've got Saturn square Uranus. We've got Venus in retrograde going over Pluto over and over again. There's a lot happening right now, and it's very intense. Mars in Sagittarius is trining Chiron, and Mercury and Capricorn is going to conjunct Pluto. Like there's a lot of really intense dark energy going on, so that we can, I just see it as like chaos. It's It's chaos magic. It's chaos that is going to bring us to a more solid, harmonious place in the future. But people are going to be acting up. This is Saturn. This is society stuff. And people love to blame each other, instead of the people who are probably really responsible for a lot of the problems here. We love to blame each other. So there's going to be a lot of fighting. It's going to be maybe even rioting, civil unrest, all of that stuff. So Jupiter, which naturally ruled Pisces in traditional astrology, Jupiter entering into Pisces is our saving grace. Thank the gods, because Jupiter in Pisces is going to take all of this. It's going to soothe the whole thing, bring in the healing waters, bring in the Jesus, who was probably a Pisces, bring in the Christ consciousness again. Like, instead of seeing how we're all different and pointing the fingers, Jupiter in Pisces is coming in like, you know what? It's not about that anymore. It's about how we're all the same. It's about how we're all one. It's about the cosmic web that weaves and connects everything together, that invisible thread. It's about spirituality. It's about compassion. That is a big Pisces word, is compassion. They are the most compassionate of the zodiac for sure. And with Jupiter, the planet of expansion, sometimes optimism, positivity, even a little bit of restlessness with Pisces, I'm telling you, this is like the antidote that we all need. It's going to be beautiful. I'm very, very excited. I just realized that my Jupiter is in Virgo, so it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. I am honestly excited for this though, because we need this. And eventually Jupiter is going to conjunct Neptune in Pisces. Neptune rules Pisces in modern astrology. So this is like very, very significant. And honestly, I have chills just talking about it, because I feel that like, collectively, this is going to be something very important. I wouldn't be surprised if there's like religious people out there of like, it's the second coming of Christ right now. I mean, if you want to believe that, that's totally fine. But I do think that there is going to be some kind of like Christ consciousness, spiritual energy coming in that is going to really change the game. Like, I can just feel it. I know that you guys can feel it too. This is going to be very important, and it's going to be very healing. There's something really powerful about this, and it's hard to put into words because it's Pisces. Pisces is beautiful. Neptune is nebulous. Neptune is shapeable, formable. As long as, there's always the what if, but as long as we don't get trapped in the darkness of Pisces, which could be drug addiction, escapism, it can be avoiding reality, thinking that certain things are reality when they're not reality. That's the danger of Pisces. Once Neptune moved into Pisces, I don't have a date for that, but we've really seen a lot of things that started as good ideas kind of become diluted into things that just make absolutely no sense to like the average person. That's the danger of Neptune and Pisces. So there's always that danger there. Everything is about balance, right? We have to, now true balance doesn't exist, but it's all about trying to at least continue that Libra action, which keeps things in balance. So it's constant tweaking and retweaking. As long as we can do that with the zodiac, we should be okay. But I do feel that this is important, and it's going to be beautiful. Okay, so let's talk about on the 29th, the Sun in Capricorn will square Chiron, and Mars in Sagittarius will sextile Saturn. So again, healing, deep soul healing. I feel, honestly, energetically, I feel like this is going to be our challenge to use what we have learned and use our wisdom to help others. This is something I've actually been looking into. Once we really like cross that threshold of like, okay, we did the work to heal our soul wound, it never really ends. But once we cross that threshold, we can really take what we've learned to like bring it to other people and help them. So that's the energy I get from this. With Capricorn included here, that's like society again. Your not immediate community, not your neighborhood, but like outside of that, like bring it to the masses, bring it to the public, help them if you want to, if it's in your alignment or in your path. Mars in Sagittarius is sextile Saturn in Aquarius. So Mars in Sagittarius at 11 degrees forming a sextile to Saturn, 11 degrees. So, this is a good placement, I think, or a good aspect, because Saturn in Aquarius, again, is breaking down structures and causing the revolution, causing a rebellion, but really most of all, it's the water bearer. So it's bringing new life back into society, where all of those like broken things, those broken structures, those broken Tower of Babels, Aquarius is coming in to like kind of soothe the whole thing in a way, not like Pisces, but more of like regenerate new life into it, or feeding new life into it. Because at the same time, Mercury is going to conjunct Pluto, 25 degrees, 25 degrees. All right, so let's get out of this. Sick of looking at this. Okay. So Mercury conjuncting Pluto in Capricorn. This is transformation of the mind, changing our perspective and transforming our perspective. So this is going to be a very interesting month, like way to end 2021 with a bang. That's kind of why I put the title for what it was. Once we get into January, we'll have a new moon in Capricorn on the 2nd, and the goddess asteroid Asteria will enter into Aquarius on the 6th. Now, this is my personal opinion, and not everyone believes this, but I think that everything is aligned. I think that the universe is for us, not that it's serving us like we're some kind of like royalty or something, but that it's for our greatest good. It's for our higher learning. So it does seem like all the pieces are really coming together, and we're going to go through some stuff, I think, in December, but at the end of the day, Jupiter is moving into Pisces. We're going to have healing. So even when things get rough, which they inevitably will, just know that we will be reconnecting to spirit. We will be reconnecting to what is beyond this place, this time, this reality, connecting back to source. Okay. All right. So I love you guys. I will see you next Sunday, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week.